my guest for today is one of my good friends, Big Joe. What's up, carnal? ¿Cómo estás?
What's up, brother? Another day in paradise, man.
Listo, va.
Yes, sir. Enjoying this weather.
A veces no se escucha the rain because I can hear with the headphones a little bit, so we're gonna see. A ver si cambia the little sound a little bit, or not, you know. But we'll be able to fix that. ¿Cómo está, carnal?
Another day, another penny, man. That's it.
What you up to nowadays? I haven't talked to you in a minute.
I haven't
seen you in a minute, but I know you're still doing big things, you know.
Yeah.
How's everything going?
Good. We stay busy, man. Work is never ending. You know, when it's yours, you're the boss. You're the employee. You're the HR. You're the payroll. You're the one they want to cry on the shoulder. Everything.
Sometimes you hide.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God.
That's crazy. What are you doing right now, though? Just with your trucking company?
We're doing trucking. We do trucking right now. I used to have the restaurant. I let the restaurant go because my wife got pregnant.
Okay.
And I want to enjoy my baby, man.
Órale, okay.
Yeah.
Big family, bro. We
Yeah.
have, what, 5 kids now?
Five kids, yeah.
Okay.
And another one on the way. She's
Another one on
pregnant.
the way?
Yeah, she's pregnant.
No chingues.
Yeah.
¿Vas a tener cuántos? A whole fucking soccer team or what?
I'm going to let her stop us.
Okay.
If whatever she says we're done, that's when we're done. But for me, there's no limit.
When I'm stopping?
Nah, man. I felt like we had our first 3 when we didn't have nothing, and we were able to make it somehow.
Okay.
God's blessed us, and we got a lot more than nothing now. So I'm like, nah, man, this ain't gonna stop me now. I want kids.
I know you need to get going.
Yeah.
That's great. How old is your big boy?
He's gonna be 17 this year.
17 years. Yeah. I was going through your profile today, so I could feel familiar with the conversation that we're gonna have. And that boy is taller than you, bro.
He's bigger than me now.
How tall is he?
Right, I'm 6'1", so I'm gonna say he's almost 6'3".
6'3".
Yeah, he's like 6'2.5" right now.
Still playing football and everything?
Playing football. He had broken his tibia this year, like in the middle of the season, but he got back. He didn't make it this year back to go play, but yeah, he's playing and he's wrestling. Okay. He just finished wrestling too.
Okay, is he in high school?
He's in high school, sophomore.
Sophomore?
Sophomore,
bro.
Yeah, he's a big boy. I think he weighs in. I think he's trimmed down a little bit too, so I think he's like at 285 right now.
What was the age gap between the older one and the other one?
They're right behind each other.
Right?
The other one's gonna be a little bit bigger.
No way.
Yeah, I think right now they're eye to eye. So that one's gonna be. So my oldest is 16 right now. Then my next one's 15. Then my daughter's 12. Then my boy's 11. Then my newborn. I mean my baby. He's gonna be a year in March, and then she's pregnant.
Oh damn, that's nice, bro.
Yeah.
That's glad to hear, bro. But okay, we're gonna take it back all the way back to when you were a kid, you know, because I know I heard some part of your story a while back when we were talking at my vecino's house.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it was interesting because you could talk. Bro.
I
you
know.
get people going.
Yeah, everybody tells me that all the time.
Story, so,
yeah.
You know what? Like, it's crazy because I've been having this in my head for a long time. And sometimes I start talking to random people and I was like, I don't want to know their story because I want to record this.
Yeah, yeah, they're interesting,
like, it's
man.
Crazy because oh my god, some people have some
crazy stories.
Some crazy stories, bro. I've been talking to some people at the gym, some people that they work for like the ICE thing.
Oh, like the border patrol and all that.
Border patrol thing, and then just, in my head I'm just like, I don't want to hear. Like I want to hear
record it.
I want to record it. You know?
Yeah.
That's tight, man. That's tight. So yeah, let's take it back. Take it back to who's Big Joe was. You know.
Well, my name's Jose Espinoza. I got Big Joe later on when I started the companies, right? But my family, my immediate family knows me as Luis.
Okay.
That's my middle name as a little kid. I grew up in Delano. I was real misguided. You know, my parents came from Mexico, you know.
Okay.
So I went to a neighborhood, you know, like in the ghetto and you know, misled, lied to, you know, as a kid. And you know, you don't know no better. So you think that's life, you know what I mean?
Life.
Yeah.
Especially at that age, it looks like how old are you said?
I'm 36 right now.
36. So you lived your
Childhood.
you know, your teenager age in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When it was the crazy
wild,
years, you know.
Wild. I grew up in the system, you know. To be honest, I grew up, you know, juvenile hall, group homes. Got sentenced to YA. Yeah, it was a pretty crazy moment in my life. From you know gangs and drugs, to just living a wild, wild life, man. Just like no moral, no value of life. Okay. I didn't understand it. I thought everybody lived like that. I really believed everybody lived that way. I thought my dad, I got in trouble with the law. So, my mom too, I had seen him got in trouble. So I thought this was normal. I thought that was life. I watched the other kids, but everybody that I hung out with was in the same boat. So in my head, like, oh, this is how everybody lives. Yeah. Like, this is normal. So, then I'll go to juvenile hall and my friends are there, my homies. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, where were we supposed to be? It all started to kind of change when I was a teenager. Drugs, gangs, everything. My mom did the best she could. You know what I mean? No shade towards my mom. She did the best she could. One day she told me, like, hey, this is enough, like we can't continue. I got your brothers, we're poor, you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, hey, you gotta go, So I left to the streets and
how many siblings you
it was a total of 4 of us. Okay. Yeah, total of 4 of us. But my parents worked in the campo. It was tough, Yeah. Didn't know it. My mom was always trying to hustle, though. As far as I can remember, my mom was being a hustler. I grew up kind of like, I left the house when I was young. I ended up in juvenile hall for dumb stuff, man. Super dumb stuff, but it was a costly part of my life, When I was a kid, I slept at parks, ate off of trash cans. No way. Yeah, I took my kids, I've driven them, and I've taken them, and I said, this is where your dad slept at. No, this is, and the reason I did that, because I want them to appreciate what we have today, Yeah. Because, I know not everybody grows up the way I did, and I pray to God that my kids don't ever go through what I went through. But, I go and show them, like, this is where it all started for me, like a bench. I remember this vividly. Like, I remember, like I can tell you the shirt I was wearing. I remember one night it was so cold. Me and a bum were at the park, in Memorial Park, on a bench, and we were looking at each other. He looked at me. I kind of looked. I was a kid, and we get that face of freezing. Like, we're just both shaking. But I always, thank God, I've always been a big boy. So he's, he doesn't really want to get too close. And I, to be honest, inside I was scared. I was like, that was a kid, I was like, but we're both freezing, man. I remember we went back to back. Yeah. My back to his back, didn't say one word, and we just passed out, I was like, oh man, it's so cold. So, man, I remember I used to eat when the baseball games were happening, and the kids were the kids were playing baseball, and then the parents will buy food, and sometimes they wouldn't eat it all, or whatever, like the hot dogs and the burgers. And then they'll throw them away, and I used to go grab them and put them off to the side because I was ashamed to eat it in front of them, So I was a kid, so I'll put them off to the side, and then later on I'll eat it, like, or either just grab it and leave, when I think I felt I had enough, and I'll eat, then drugs and like I said, running the streets. Then I remember I went to juvenile hall. I remember my first time too. It was a crazy experience, juvenile hall.
How old were you when you
went
to the system for the first time?
I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. Yeah, and I ended up in juvenile hall. Yeah, I was little. I remember I woke up in the jail cell, like, oh man, what's this? I'm like, where are we going? I didn't know nothing. I didn't know what was happening. You kind of hear about it on the streets, but I was such a young kid, so I just walked in there and I was like, oh man, this is crazy, But I remember getting a hot shower, getting my 3 meals in there. Okay. And I was like, oh man, what the hell? I can do this, But then the freedom, seeing the homies and the parties, and I was like, oh, I want to go back out there, though, So it went on like that for a good while, man, until I finally picked up a big case. I ended up going up to state penitentiary. This was all, like everybody tried doing illegal things, tried selling this, selling that.
He's trying to survive.
Time, I always felt like I had the hustler in me, but I've always felt like it was misguided.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't, nobody tells me like, hey, you can own a liquor store, or hey, you can start a transportation business, or hey, like, you know what I mean? I didn't have that type of, so me growing up, I always say this, I heard it from somebody, I can't remember the guy, but he goes, I always had people that I didn't want to be like around me.
Yeah. That's crazy because, I'm not going to talk about this people, but I see them and their family, you know.
Yeah.
And probably they won't even see them. But I was like that's a different type of motivation too. Because
yes.
you see them and you're just like.
Man.
Like hope God que les vaya bien, but the last thing I want is me end up like that or have my family go through that. You know, like my personal family. You know, and I'm sure you feel the same way, because you have big boys now. You know.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And they're really noble kids. Like they're cool. I talk to them. I see them now. Now they're driving. They come.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you're a really proud dad, bro, coming
am.
from that type of life. You know, because I had conversations or I heard conversations of some people that. They're just assholes to their kids, bro.
Yeah.
And then they say, like who gives a fuck? My dad treated me like that. So why would I change, you know? And then in my mind, because I'm not like that, bro, I tell my kids I love them every day.
Yeah.
I kiss them. And then it's funny because Frankie, like, he's already a 5, and he's already started getting embarrassed in public. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't care, bro. I'm not kissing until you're 18. Bro. Oh my God.
That's
so
right.
like, no, Dad. Like, don't, you know,
You
don't
get
like
out of
that.
here, yeah.
Himself, and I'm just like I'm gonna show that love because because like that I never had it, you know.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to be the person that was like oh I never had it. Why like.
Nah, you gotta change.
You know?
Yeah.
That's a dumb mentality, man. And I see that relationship that you have with your boys. You know, they're just it's like you guys are friends. Like they see, you know, you're his dad, but they have that respect for you. But you can see you guys get along as you know, like as a friends. You know, and that's how you do that. You're implementing that into your kid's life, you know?
Yeah, growing up, you know, your kids, you're like, for my parents, you know, to them, their love was, you know, the lights on, there's beans on the table, you know, that's the love, you know what I mean? And that's the way they grew up, no shit, like I said, no shit at that. It's a different time.
Them either, you know?
Yeah, correct. So, you know, to me, when it comes to them, yeah, I agree with you, you know, I always tell them, hey, even when I get them in trouble, you know, I tell them all the time, hey, man, you know, I don't like doing this, dude. Don't put me in this position, you know, because as your dad, you know, I always tell them, like, I love you and I got a lot of respect for you, but you know, don't cross that.
Don't cross the line.
Yeah, because you know, and these little things, I always tell them, be humble and be kind. You know, I know my kids are blessed, just like we are. You know, and I always tell them, not everybody falls in that category, man. You know, and I always tell them my story. You know, and I tell them how messed up it was. You know what I mean? How just, you know, the system and the way this government's all set up, none of it's meant to really help you.
Yeah.
It's meant to keep you.
There.
Yeah, it's meant to keep you right. Yeah, and I told them I've been there, and it's not nice.
Yeah, and for some reason, bro, it seems like back in those days it was even worse. Because whenever people go into a system, like it'll take them years to get out, and then thanks God the gangs are ending. At least here in California, you know. Because back in the days, like you're gonna be walking around nowhere, you start getting fights with random people with colors, and we lived through that, you know. Like I had the end of it, you know.
Yeah.
But I talked to to older cats, you know. I have one of my coworkers that he tells me like he was in prison from the 80s to 2000s, and how bad was the gang activity in prison. You know, thanks God I never been in prison. I never stepped a foot in prison. I got picked up by the cops and they took me for a ride. They were gonna give me a learn not to scare me. I got me back up, you know?
He's like, take me home.
I was scared. We had a fight with a little kid and we jumped him, you know, like back in those days.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody did that.
Oh yeah.
And then we jumped him, we took off running. I was the slowest one, so they caught me.
They're like, come here. Yeah.
The cops took me, and you know I got here in 2005 from Mexico.
Yeah.
And that happened like in 2006, 2007. I started hanging out with the homies, not because I want to be in desmadre, but because I want to learn English fast.
Quick, yeah.
And so I don't want to stay con la raza because I want to learn English the fastest possible, you know. And then so at the same time, daban el desmadre because I was hanging out with them, you know. And that happened that time. We jumped them. The cops took us. I was still catching up on English, so I don't know how to talk to the cops. I was like, "Hey, pig, let me go."
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like I was mad and looking at me, you know, and I was just in the back, like, "Hey, and like I'm sorry, you know, I was just running because I saw you guys, this and that." I used to live in the East Side camp, you know, in the back, and that was the hood here in Wasco, and so they took me around and they were trying to talk to me. I didn't understand what they were saying, but I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah."
Let me go.
They took me back and they dropped me at my mom's house. There was like 5-6 patrol cops. Yeah, you made a hat on, bro. My mom came out like just scared, crying.
Oh
you know,
my God,
my
baby.
Son, you know, that was
Yeah.
the first one. She thought I was gonna keep going like that, and thanks God, it never escalated. That was the worst I ever had, you know.
That's cool.
And but yeah, like I said, I had the last of the gang things because I was still not involved with the games, but
but you were around them,
friends, you know. And glad to see that now it ended, bro.
It
now,
is.
now that we have kids, and then you hardly see that. Like it's easier to keep them the right path nowadays
Yeah.
because it's not as bad as it was. The
Back then.
drugs is, but at least not the gangs. You know.
Yeah, that's good, man, because it was a, you know, it's a lot of misguiding, a lot of manipulation. You know, it's
Yeah.
man, it's crazy because when you start getting involved with this and start to realize what it really was, like people like to glorify it.
Yeah.
And I never understood why. I was like in my head, like I remember I was sitting in prison, like when I used to go in and out. And I used to sit in there and I, you know, they're like, oh, you know, this and that. And then you'll come out to the streets and everybody's big and bad. And I'm like, what the hell? I said, man, I was in there with you. I was watching you cry.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you talking about? You know, this is, I was crying, dude. I don't want to be here, dude. Yeah, like, I don't want to be here. Like, this is not life. And I always thought, like, there has to be something better. This cannot be everything. You know what I mean? I remember going to the cells. And that really, when I ended up in prison, for me, it's when it started to kind of change. You know, once I got into the prison system, you're hearing guys talk, and then I remember some dude tells me, he goes, "Hey man, have you ever been outside your hood and your town?
Are you seeing the world around it?
I was like, what? It's like there's more? You know, like wait, what? He goes like, yeah, you know, like the beach is like 2 hours that way, right? And he said, you know, San Francisco's over here, and Los Angeles over there, and Arizona and Nevada, and I'm like, wait, there's more? You know, like we can travel. Like, yeah. I remember he gave me a magazine, man. I'm scrolling through the magazine. I'm watching stuff. You know, and I know there's other places, but you just don't.
You minded to you don't
even
those 3-4 blocks.
Correct. And you're. I was like, oh my God. That's when I started to kind of like really something inside of me kind of woke like, hey, dude, this can't be it.
No way.
This can't be it. I'm sitting in the car. I get out. I in and out of prison. My early 20s. You know. I get out one year, finally, you know, I don't know what, I think I wanted, like, hey, that's it. I want to be different, you know, like, I want to do something better. This can't be my life. I don't know why my wife decided to stay around. To be honest, she could have left at any point in time.
No way.
I was gone, you know. She could have just dipped. She could have
So
just.
you guys were dating?
Yeah, we were dating. Yeah,
Okay.
through my prison term, most of it, yeah, she was there. And she just hung on. Man,
That was before you had kids, or you already had?
No, I started, that life started, and then I got her pregnant. I went to prison.
Okay.
So then I got her pregnant again, and I'll go back to prison. That's how my life was going, you know. So for like my first 2 boys, like I tell everybody, for my 2 boys and my daughter, I always tell everybody, like with my son Leonardo now, that to me was the first kid I changed diapers on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get to experience the baby stuff now, you know, and it's awesome.
So that's why. Oh, that's your little one.
Yeah, that's my baby. That's right now. That was with her. Man, I love it. I love every second of it. I was like, man, I gave up so much, you know, for things that, like I said, for lies and you know, and I wish I can go back, but at the same time, I know it made what we are today.
Yeah.
You know, it builds us up to today.
It's part of your story, and it's what builds your character, you know, as a person, and the people around you as well, you know.
Yeah, and so there was once I got out of state penitentiary. I think I was like 25. Yeah, like no, I'm probably like a little bit younger, 23, 24, somewhere in there. I remember I'm driving with one of my cousins, and I don't know what we're gonna do, something stupid. And we're in the car, and he looks at me, he goes, man, he goes, dude, he goes, hey, he goes, you're smart, dude. He goes, can you imagine if you were to use this for good?
Positive way?
Yeah. And I stayed quiet, and I was like, how? You know, like, how do I use any of this for like how? Like, where do I start? You know, like, but he planted the seed. He planted the seed. So one day I'm sitting there and I was like, man, I gotta get a job, dude. I can't live like this, you know, like this can't be, I'm on welfare, you know, just, you know, no money, no nothing. So I started, you know, once my life started to change and I wanted to get it together, I started applying for jobs, right?
Okay.
I walk in and they tell me, hey, you know how to work, you know how to do this? No. You know, I had experience from my dad, and when we used to work, he used to work in the dairy, he used to take me with him.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of experience of work-wise, right? A little bit on the field, you know, just basic stuff. But I used to go apply for these big companies and be like, hey, you know how to do this? You know how to do that? I'm like, no. They're like, oh. So I kept saying that. So you know, they just kept, nope, just boom.
Don't even take you in.
So I remember this. I sat down one day with now Wonderful. Back then it was called Paramount, I think, right?
Yeah,
I went to Paramount. It's one of their big, you know, hirings that they're doing for the season. Okay. I walked in there and I'm applying. Man, the guy's going through his application. His name's Blue. I think he's from here, from Wasco.
He's still around.
Yeah. He owns. I think he owns that little wing spot, and he owns like a little wing, food truck.
Orale, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never met the guy, but I heard from him. The big dog to go.
Yeah, at Paramount. Yeah, he was huge. He was the main dude, and it happened as I remember they were walking into rooms, like they had like 3 rooms or 4 rooms, and there was a guy in there. He was just kind of going through your application. I mean, to go Blue.
Okay.
So I sat down across, and I'm a big 49er fan, so he says, "Oh, he's a Cowboy fan."
Okay.
He starts talking a little bit about it, and we start going back and forth, and then he looks at my application. He goes, "You have your driver license?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, like kind of like weird, like, "You have your driver license?" Like, "Yeah, I did." I always said. And this is funny because everybody, "Man, you have an immaculate driving record." Well, because I was in prison. I had it, but I always went to prison, so I never could get a speeding ticket.
Okay.
So it was a clean driving record. So he goes, "Hey, you know how to drive a water truck?" Man, I wanted to tell him like, "No, I don't," but I felt like, "Oh man, here goes."
Tell him it's gonna.
So I was like, "Yeah, I know how to drive a water truck." He's like, "All right, I'm gonna call you." Sure enough, like a couple of days passed, they call me, go in. I think I did a drug test or whatever it was, and he takes me out to the field. He takes me out to the water truck, and I remember he jumps on top, and thank God, I think it was an automatic water truck. So he goes, "Hey, this is how you turn the PTO." I can catch on to things pretty quickly, right? So he goes, "This is how you turn the PTO, and then that side is this, that side is this." So, okay, so in my head, I'm like, obviously I got to turn the PTO, and obviously I got to flick these switches to get water out somehow. So yeah, he goes, "All right, go fill up in the back." So I'm like, "Oh my God, where's this bag? How am I gonna fill up?"
The worst feeling.
Yeah.
The worst. Man.
Oh my! So I'm on my way, and then, get to the back, and I'm looking at this thing, this big old tube coming down. I'm like, you just make sense of it in your head. Okay, the tube needs water needs to come in here. So I park the truck underneath. I'm looking, and I'm like, there has to be a little thing you turn. Yeah. Oh, there it goes. I'm all happy, like I figured this out. Yeah, like he said. My first mistake, I remember they got me in trouble for it too. So while we're there, there's nobody around. Everybody's working. So, I think it was a walkie-talkie that he was talking through. But he tells me, "Hey, go, you got to go on this field, whatever." And I remember before I went in there, I turned the PTO on. And I remember he's just like, because, you have to hit the brake. But I didn't know that. But they had a little sticker on there. Said, "Hey, tap the brake and then turn the PTO." So I was like, "Oh, okay, bam, turn it on." Then I was like, nothing happened, So I'm like flicking switches. I'm like, what the hell, So I left it like that, but I started to drive.
Okay.
While the PTO was on. Starts, oh man, it works. This is it, So I get to the field and I leave everything on. All the knobs, I turn them all on, spraying everything. They get me in trouble. They're like, "Hey, you can't wet the front because you start to drive over, you drag the mud." Yeah, so he goes, "Only the back." So, but little by little catching on. So I was working for him, and then he tells me one day, he goes, "Hey, man," he goes, "you do good work. You show up on time, Blue tells me that. He goes, "Get in my truck." So now I'm in the truck with Blue. I'm like, fire me? What,
Yeah, fire me.
Yeah. So he takes me to the shop. His name was Lalo, another good guy. He takes me there. He goes, "Hey," "I'm going to put you in the shop." And he tells me just like this. Blue says, "I'm going to put you in the shop. It's your job to keep your job." Okay. I like, "Oh, smack. Okay, I go put me in the shop. So does that mean he goes, "Yeah, like this can be your permanent spot. Like you can learn how to weld, you can learn how to do this." And I was like, "Oh, this is an opportunity, dude. This is it." I remember I got my first legit check for like $800, $700 back then, In my head, I said, "I'm rich."
That's it.
I made it.
You made money now.
$700 legit with my Social Security and my name. Like this is it, like I'm doing big things now. In my head, it was felt so big. Like I accomplished something, And I remember I took it to my wife, I was like, "Hey, look." She's like, "Oh man, you got a job, okay, we're doing nice, we're doing good, But something inside of me always told me like this can't be it.
This can't be it. Yeah.
There needs to be more. I know there is. At the time the oil fields was kind of up and down, at that time, so I'm applying. And again, I realized what worked and was to lie on my application.
Okay.
I said, I'm going to put that I know how to do things I don't know how to do.
Of course, yeah. I'll get you in.
I go to the next company, and it was Advanced Industrial Services, AIS.
Okay.
They clean tanks. Put my app in, and they call me in. But AIS is known to hire a lot of felons.
Okay.
So when I walked
Oh
in,
yeah, well that's right. I forgot that now you have a record.
Yeah, I have
on you
felonies.
too. So it's weird because in other fools is more like the
Lenient,
chance, you know?
yeah.
But it's still in the record. You have to bring it up.
bring it up, correct. So when I went to AIS, they asked me the question. They're like, hey, it says it on the thing. And I was like, man, everything inside of me told me to put no. I said I don't. But they hit, you know what, I'm going to put yes. And then it tells you to describe a little bit. So I was in my head like, what are the most recent ones? You know, like how can I make them sound not so bad? You know, So I'm like, me and this guy, got into a fight or something. I forgot what I wrote, but I'm sure I minimized what really happened, and I turned it in, and his name was Kenny. Yeah, Kenny Osborne, cool guy too, man. He sits me down, he asks a couple of questions, and then he goes, "You're a felon?" And I was like, like here we go,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And then he looks at me, he goes, "You're gonna fit right in." I'm like, what the hell? I was like, oh, smack. Like, what does that mean? Am I hired? So he goes like, yeah, we're going to hire you. I was like, all right, cool. He goes, we need guys right now. That company was starting to pick up, and they were picking up a lot of work. So yeah, they gave me an opportunity. And that's kind of really where I started to learn the real ins and out of working, showing up, at 5 in the morning, going home 7 o'clock at night, like really putting big hours.
Yeah.
I remember I was getting paid I think they started me off at $8.75, $9. Like, it wasn't a lot, but I was happy because of the hours. I was getting a ton of hours. I was getting the overtime, so my checks were decent. And it was through a staffing agency. I think that's who we went through. But
you started first.
yeah, but we started to learn. I started to learn all this, and I didn't know there's always, there was a plan. I always felt, I'm a big God believer. I have a lot of faith, and through my wife, going to church and understanding that this whole process was a plan. It was all a plan for something bigger. When I started getting that job, and again, okay, we're putting in hours, we're doing good. I went to the boss like, hey man, you guys pick me for every Saturday. You guys give me all the overtime, and I never miss. I always show up. I told him, can I get a little bump? Hey, a little raise. He's like, no. He goes, you want a raise? Bring me your Class A.
Okay.
I was like, Class A?
What is that?
What the hell is that?
Yeah,
What is it? Where do I buy it? He goes, oh, you need to go to the DMV. So I'm like, okay. So I walked into the DMV just like this. I walked in one day, and I told him, I'm here to buy my Class A. The lady looks at me.
Got a little bit of money saved up.
Yeah, like, buy your Class A? Do you mean apply for your Class A? And I was like, yeah. That. So she was like, oh, is this much? You need to study this book. And I'm like, study? Like, lady, I didn't go to school. What do you mean study? She's like, yeah, study the book and then come take the test. I'm like, oh, my God, here we go. So then I went back to AIS, and the truck drivers now, I walked up to them and be like, hey, how do you do this? And, they all give you their advice. And so I was like, all right. So my wife has pictures. Like, one of the first times I really got to open a book and say, I need to study this, there's going to be a test. So I'm there studying the book, and she has pictures of me trying to read it and understand it, To us, it was a big deal. We had a little bit of money saved up. And when I mean little, I mean $1,000, little. And if everything went well, we're going to, get my Class A, I remember I went to the school. So I used to go to work in the morning, and I went to SAFE. What do they call it? I forgot that trucking school. I forgot the name of it. But I used to go to trucking school down Union.
Okay, in Bakersfield?
Yeah, in Bakersfield. And they used to stay open kind of late. Okay. So I used to work during the morning and go to school at night with trucking. So así me la llevé un ratito. Finally, the day comes to take the test. I'm good until the last, little thing. I think I messed up and failed. I was like, damn. I said, I don't have no more money. They're like, oh, no, you get 3 tries. Come back. I was like, cool. Second time, I think on my second one, I passed it. I was like, cool. I remember I had my paper for my Class A now. I have my Class A now. Don't even know really how to drive yet.
Yeah.
I said my pay. I got it. So I go to my boss, Kenny.
Here it is.
Hey.
That's what you needed. Here it is.
He looks at it. He goes, hold on. I need you to get experience. I'm like,
oh my God.
I said, dude, you told me if I brought you this, you're going to give me more, So I said, all right, you know what? I said, cool. So I started looking everywhere, applying. Of course, who's going to hire a new guy? Yeah. Nobody, Young's out here, they call like, hey, come. So I go to them. At that time, you know, they're doing a big hire on too. They're starting their season of tomato or whatever. And they're doing those classes. And I'm walking around. You got to do like section to section. I'm walking around the sections. I remember I asked the guy, like, hey, one of the instructors, stop everybody, you know, like, hey, man, I got a question. What did they start the truck drivers at? He's like, I think like $13 or whatever it was back then, which wasn't, I was like, what?
Well, that was a lot of money back
Yeah,
then.
I was like, oh my God. But I'm like, wait, you know, if this is here, you know, like there has to be more.
Yeah.
So I go applying, and in the process, I started with a drilling company. It was drilling for water. They used to be an oil field company, but I think during the 2008 or whatever, what happened there, they moved into a water company.
Okay.
They started transforming the rigs or buying new rigs or whatever. And that's when I started, you know, kind of drilling in the water, you know?
Yeah, a lot of companies that they do every time it goes down.
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time the company goes down, they try to find ways to do it, you know. And because I've seen a few companies that you see them trucking, like hauling trailers or like it
Yep.
doesn't have to do with oil fields, but they've been in the oil fields industry for years, you know.
For years.
So, I mean, cuando va de bajar el jale, you know, like you have to look for
Look.
lo que salga, you know.
Yeah, so and then they ended up hiring me just because I had the Class A, not necessarily because I was a driver.
Okay.
They're gonna hire me as a hand, but if I needed to drive, they're gonna let me drive. But to me, I took advantage of it because it's gonna be experience.
Yeah.
So we used to work on the rig 30 days on and get 2 weeks off. On my 30 days on, I work on the rig, and then when we're doing a rig move, that's when I start learning how to drive.
Drive, okay.
And nobody really will teach you. You know, these guys are like, hey, grab that
Hey,
truck
jump
and
in, move this over
yes.
here, back up the trailer.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, I remember this guy said first gears. So, you know, learning and getting the hang of it and started to get better and better and better and better and better until, you know, finally we got trucking like down. And I went with this company for a good, because I was making a ton of money at that point.
Yeah, that's when you became a driller, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember you told me some part of the story that you used to be in the office
Yeah.
as a driller.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, you're making a lot of money, but once again, you're working crazy hours.
30 days on.
30 days on. Was that in town you go home or?
No.
No way.
Yeah, no,
You
they-
wouldn't be at home for those 30
30
days?
days, you'll be gone. And I did it for a minute, man. I did it for a while, but I remember my first check, it was like $4,000, right? Back then to us, man.
That's a lot of money,
It's
man.
like the gold mine.
Yeah.
$4,000 in my head. I remember I called her because the check was a direct deposit. The first time I even got direct deposit,
Okay.
I called her. Hey, you see that? Like, oh man. I was like, hey, we owed credit cards and tickets now. You know, life kind of happened. So I was like, hey, pay this one and pay this. Our credit cards, to be honest, in total, probably like $2,000, right? But in our heads, $2,000 was a
Yeah,
lot.
a lot of money, yeah.
So I told her, hey, pay them all down, you know, pay everything. We're debt free, you know, like,
That's it.
you know, but like typical Mexicano, we don't know money.
Yeah.
I don't know money. So you start making good money, what do you
You start
do?
wasting money. You start wasting all that money. You
There
start
you
having
go.
bills. You start, yeah.
Next thing you know, our credit cards got bigger, our dinners got bigger, a big truck payment now, I bought a truck, a bigger house, the bills started to get bigger. And I didn't understand. I thought it was endless. I thought in my head, like, this is gonna go forever. You know, like I never thought it was gonna. I thought these checks were gonna. At one point, we started doing prevailing wage. I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
I remember my check comes in $7,000-$8,000, dude, for a 2-week period.
Period, yeah.
I was like,
Crazy.
oh
That was
my
a lot of
God.
money. That was a lot of
Dude,
money
I
back
was
then.
taking my whole family to eat. I'm like, everybody's on me. Don't worry about it. I'm rich.
Yeah.
You know, I'm rich, you
I
know.
remember one time I had the same thing. Me pasó. I worked 15 days straight overtime. We knew the well. Me and my compa Mando. Shout out to my compa Mando. We're in the same well, bro. We were working. It was like 16-hour days.
Yeah.
16-hour days. One of those days, the other crew didn't show up because they crashed their truck on the way to work, and the driver was kind of drunk, or something happened that he didn't make it. So we had to stay the whole time, bro, the whole shift.
shift, yeah.
Something like that happened. Y también me pasó eso that I got a check that I never seen in my life, you know?
You're like-
salí de trabajar at like at 5 in the morning. I went to the bank and got it out. I was like, they fucked up. That's my money. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think they fucked up.
Who this is? I was like, I'm keeping this.
Yeah. So I went and got the most I could. It was like, okay, like,
Vámonos.
you know?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you think you're living the dream, you know. Over time, working, you know, now you're away from the family though, you know. My kids, I always felt like, man, you know, got out of prison to do this, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm like, you start to fall into this circle, you know what I mean? And I was like, there has to be more. This cannot be the rest of my life. I always thought that, man. Like, there's more. I know there has to be. By then, you start to kind of see people. Now you see. So I started to realize that, like, getting drunk, hanging out with the homies, I was like, man, this is leading me nowhere. I'm going nowhere. This is doing nothing for me. I wake up hungover, days pass. Where are we going? What's the goal?
What kind of life is this? Yeah.
So then I started to focus, like, on the owners.
Okay.
So then my eyes, like, kind of like, okay, like,
What is this guy?
yeah, like, what is he doing that I can do? How can I learn off of him? So then, I'm a talker, I can talk. So, hey, what's up, boss? How you doing? Oh, I'm doing good, Joe. What's going on? And then I start picking his brain, what made you do this? Like, oh man, try to better the family. And, you hear kind of the same thing. They always, want something better and for their kids. And you're thinking, man, that's what I want, But, well, how'd you do it? Like, wow, it's a lot of work, and, they give you kind of the basic run that they see you as, you're the worm of the rig, get back to work, so you're like, oh man, but every day I used to go over there. So this is how I got into rhythm. I used to work my 12, 14, 16-hour shift. And then if there was still a little bit of daylight, or if I was working the night shift into the day shift, right after we leave, I used to go pick his brain a little bit, go talk to him, go understand how he thinks. Yeah. So I started to do that and I started to realize how different their minds work. Like, we were thinking about going home and get some brewskis, see what the compa's doing, call this guy, see what this, their minds were way different, man.
Yeah.
They're focusing on the business, what needs to improve, what can you do to help. Yeah, what can we buy to make it better, to make it easier, to make it faster, blah, blah, all these things. And I was like, oh man. So whatever, this was the moment that I knew I was going to start transportation.
Okay.
I'm sitting there, bam, we're working, and I think we had mud. It was mud or drilling pipe or whatever it was. In the distance, I see a semi. The 389 Peterbilt. I'm in Denver, Colorado. No, I'm in Fairplay, Colorado. And I see this rig driving up the hill to deliver pipe or mud or whatever it was. And this dude jumps off, and it's an Indian, right? He pulls out his phone. Blah, blah, blah. He speaks into his phone, and he translates it to me. Yeah, and tells me that he has something that belongs to us, that if we can sign the paperwork and offload them. And in my head, I'm like, what the hell? I was like, how are you driving the truck? You don't even know, like, English, And then I start kind of picking his brain as much as I could. Like, hey, is it yours? Yeah, he was, he's telling me, like, yeah, my truck, this and that, with his little bit of English that he spoke. He's telling me, like, yeah, my truck, my check. And he pulls out his phone and he goes, like, into his emails and he pulls out a paycheck stub. Pay stub's like for like 10 grand. And I was like,
that's how much you're making? And how long?
Yeah. And I was like, wait, what are you doing? Like, what? He's like, oh, trucking, this and that. And I'm like, so plant the seed.
There you go.
It's plant that seed. And I said in my head, like, wait, okay, I'm not a very smart guy. I said, I didn't grow up and I didn't graduate high school. I barely went to school when I did. So I said, I'm not a book smart guy, but I got street smarts and I got common sense. I said, if that guy can do this,
I can do this.
I can do the same thing. There's no difference.
There's no way. I can't help myself. I'm going to make it happen.
I'm going to make it happen. I call my wife and say, hey, I'm going to start a trucking company. It's going to be called Big Joe Transport.
Just like that.
Just like that. I already had it. I said, it's going to be called this. My wife's kind of like, okay, like. So, it's already, I'm telling her about it, what I want to do, but I'm still working my job. All the money that we made during those prevailing wage jobs is gone. Okay. We bought trucks, trailers, yeah. So now we don't have anything. We don't have no money again, And my wife wants me to quit. She goes, hey, quit, you can't be away from the house like this forever. I said, all right. I was in the middle of Fairplay, Colorado, 19 feet of snow, freezing, and I said, I'm a Cali boy. I can't be out here in the snow. What am I doing out here, man? I said, nah. I tell my boss, hey, boss, man, I love you a lot, man. I respect you. Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm going to give you my 2 weeks notice. He laughs at me. He's like, you ain't going nowhere, dude. Go home, enjoy your 2 weeks off. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I said, boss, I'm not coming back. No matter what you tell me, I'm not coming back. He goes, you're going to come back. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm not coming back. You take it or leave it, but I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice, which was supposed to be my 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
I remember I had so much stuff. They were going to buy me a plane ticket, but I wanted to bring all my stuff back. So I told the boss, hey, a truck needed to get to, I think Los Angeles or wherever this F-250, a work truck. So I told him, I'll take it. You know, I'll get off the clock and I'll take it for free. Just pay for the diesel. Okay. Say less, just take the truck. So it took me like 3 days to get home flying, you know, driving as fast as I could. I get home and I told her, hey, I quit. You know, I turned in the truck, give him the credit cards, everything, I'm done. Cool, you know, she's like, all right, no job now. It's back to square one.
Just like that from one day
Just
to
like-
another.
yep.
Like, it was in your head, but you said like,
I'm gone.
okay, I'm not.
Yep.
And that was a lot of money you were making.
Yeah, and now nothing. We had nothing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
A decision like that, bro, is hard to do.
Tough.
And you know, but if you have that type of mentality, you're like, I'll make something happen here in Cali, or what was next?
So I started to look for work, bam, bam, bam. But now I have experience.
Okay, yeah.
I know a little bit of welding. I'm not no welder, but I can make two metal stick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can make them stick. I thought in my head, like, that's gold. Okay, we can do this. I show up on time. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. You know, at the time I was drinking, you know, but I don't do drugs. I said, I do my job. I said, I got my class A. Now I got some experience behind me. I said, I'm going to find a job. So I started applying, bam, bam, bam. I walk into a company called DCS, Diversified Construction Solutions. They did paving. I don't know if you know Joey Mendoza. He's from Wasco. Anyway, I go in, I put my application. They call me back. They sat me down and they start questioning me, you know. At this time, I felt pretty confident. You know, I'm like, hey, man. Yeah, I said, I got experience. I know what I'm doing. So I walked in there and I told them, like, hey, man, look it. I am a felon. No, I lied. I lied about that too again. I said, I'm not a felon. I put no, so they didn't even look at it. But I told them, I'm a hard worker. You're hiring me, well, you will never regret it. I go, I promise you that. I go, if you give me the opportunity, I will never regret it. They call me for a second interview and say, okay, well, now money. Now I start talking about, like, what do you want? And I was like, man, in my head, I was like, I'll take anything, you know, just, but I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to show it like, you know, like, I was like, you give me $18, I'll start right now, you know what I mean? But I'm like, wow, $22, you know, I had like, you need a number. I thought in my head, like 22, they're in my head. I felt like when I seen their face, I feel like, oh, Word thought he was going to say like 28, you know, like 30.
$30.
I said 20, like $2, and they're like, okay, we're going to start you at that.
That's when it comes to your head, like
I like again, man.
Because as soon as you're like, okay, that will work for me.
Yeah, you're like, man, I knew I could have hit him with more, you know. But they hire me. I start driving the truck. I'm moving their equipment. I hit the ground, you know, and you know, I'm a go-getter, you know what I mean? Obviously, I don't know. We started doing paving, but I started to try to learn it and understand it and get better at it. You know, I'm not the best paver, you know, not the best raker. And there's different positions, but I always try to help. Yeah. You know what I mean? I always try to help, and whatever little I could, and I got off, did what I had to.
You guys were using the grinders, right?
Yeah, the grinders. They had grinders. We did a lot of paving. We paved the I-5. I helped pave the I-5. We helped pave Rosedales. You know, all over Bakersfield, did patches, different jobs. The company did good. And I remember the moment that I thought, like, we were doing very good. The company's moving along. We're doing good, and I'm always talking about this company I'm going to start. You know, and then that time, it's in my head, and I said,
I don't care what day, what year it's gonna be, but
I'm gonna
the name is there. It's gonna happen.
So, I'm working, and I remember they got a job in Taft. I think Taft Jail, right? And they got a job. They're like, hey, everybody needs to fill out this form. I look at the form like, what's that, you know? He's like, well, put your name, your social security, like basic information. They need to send it to the jail to make sure everybody's cleared, and then we're gonna go in. And I was like, man, so I fill it out, you know, and I give it to them. Yeah, I knew, like, yeah, they're gonna find out. So I don't say nothing. I'm like, man, I'm sitting at home like, is he gonna fire me over this? You know, like, I'm thinking all this, like, oh man, here we go, all over again. I'm like, it's all right.
One of those days that you couldn't even sleep.
Yeah, man, I'm like, oh my God, just like, you know, it was hard for finding a job period for me, you know, and I'm like, here we go again. And the day of the job comes, and he's like, I remember he's looking at his notes. He goes, yeah, come on, you go. And I was one of the only truck drivers in that company at the time, because they didn't need truckers like that. So he's like, you got denied. He tells me all shocked, my boss, you know, I don't want to say his name, but
happened?
yeah, like, why, you know, and I was like, oh, man. He goes, hey, Joe, he goes, it's good. He goes, what we're going to do, we're going to take the equipment all the way to the front of the facility and just stay in the truck.
Okay.
I was like, okay, cool. You know, I started, everybody goes inside, but he does it, my boss, you know. Everybody, the rest of the guys go inside, they're knocking out the job, and then my boss drives up to me. He goes, hey, man. He goes, do you have a felony? And I was like, yeah, man, I do, you know. It was dumb, man. I told him, you know, and I was downplaying what I did again, you know. I didn't want to explain my whole life to him, like, you know. So I was like, hey, I messed up, man, you know, got into a fight with another guy, you know, blah, blah. And that was, the honest truth, that was one of the felonies that I had. But I told him that, and he's like, hey, you should have told me, you know, I would have never. And I was like, to be honest, he goes, I thought you were going to fire me, man. Like, and I needed my job, you know. I feed my family from here, you know. So I wanted you to give me a shot. He goes, nah, man, I would have gave you the shot regardless, you know, this and that. But I didn't know that, you know. I'm like, you're not going to.
You didn't know me.
Yeah, you don't know me.
Throw me off.
Yeah, so now, you know, he sees I can work, so he gives me the job. And again, there's always a plan, you know. There was always a plan. So I felt like God put me in all these jobs and everything I went through for something. I knew
you got something out of every single situation. Yeah.
Again, his name, you know, I'm not going to say his name. I was going to say his name. Yeah. But same thing. I said, okay, I wanted to be my own boss one day. I wanted to understand what it was to have your own company. So every day after work in that company, I used to go into his office, and he'll be late in the afternoon with his little computers, laptop, the keyboard, mouse, and he's typing away, and I can see him, and I was like, boss, like, what are you doing? You know, just, he looked at me like, go home, you know, like, oh, no, just, you know, I want to see what you were up to, you know, what are you doing, you know, like, oh, it's because I'm looking at this tractor over here. This one is a good price. We're at this auction. I'm like, oh, auction, what's that? You know, like, oh, we're out here at Ritchie Brothers, and I'm trying to buy this, and we're bidding on these jobs right here. And then he'll turn his screen, and I'm looking at what he's doing, you know. I'm like, okay, this guy. But what I got from that was, it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We're all on our way home, but this man's still here putting in the hours.
Okay. He was the boss of the company?
He was a boss and the owner. He had a part ownership, and he was the boss.
Okay.
So, you know, he had a lot of say so on what happened. And he was part owner. I think it was a three-way company, but he was a hands-on boss. He was a guy that was at the facility. So he was real talkative too. So I used to pick his brain. All the questions like, hey, and I'll ask him like deep questions, like, what do you do when that guy, you know, flips you off and he, you know, Joe, you can't let small stuff get under your skin like that. You know, you got to be bigger than that. He goes, check, I got my nice house. I got my nice cars. I got more to lose than he does. Yeah. If I react to that,
you have a bigger purpose than that, you know?
Yeah. He goes, if I react to something that petty, he goes, I got more to lose. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, you know, like, okay, that's true, you know. You know, as a kid, the way I grew up, you know, somebody says something like, hey, what's up? You know, you got to talk, you know, like you have this mentality. But you start to realize, man, you got to choose and pick your fights. Yeah. You know, those are not the ones you want to fight. You know, those petty stuff that, oh, this guy said that and that guy didn't like me, or this guy looked at me wrong, or he didn't say good morning to me. Nah, man.
That gets to your head.
Don't. So started to learn off of that too, you know. And so I got better at what I was doing. I remember they approached me one day and said, hey, we want you to get off the truck and get to the ground and help the ground more. We're going to bring another trucker, and we want you to be part of the ground more and start to understand more. They wanted me to start to move up within the company. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started to slowly move up, you know, nothing big, but gave me a little bit more money, you know, a little bit more responsibilities. And I felt like, okay, here we go, you know. But in this process, though, I said, okay, now I gotta hit the ground with my company. I gotta start to try to build something, because if not, I'm gonna be stuck here forever.
Yeah, now you need to start saving the money.
Yeah.
Start looking at
trucks or what? Yeah. So I said, okay, how do I do this? You know. So I watched the trucks for my company. It had something, you know, the CA. A CA. I go, what's the CA? You know, it says on the door CA and a number. So I took a picture. I went home. What is a CA? You know, what is this? And I'll put it into, and it's, you know, California appointed number, you know, and it's for the state to know you're this and that, And I'm like, okay, I need that CA.
Yeah, what was the price of it?
Yeah, let me do my homework on this. How do I get that? Then a DOT. And I was like, what's a DOT? You know, like, so I seen the truck. So I was like, okay, what's a DOT? Let me see. Do my homework. Where do I buy a DOT? You know? And at that time, another compa of mine started his kind of small trucking business. He bought a truck. And I remember one day he sends me a picture. Oh no, he was sending me a picture of his pickup, but behind the pickup was a semi.
Okay.
And so I said, hey, what's that in the back? You know, like,
That's what caught your eye.
that's caught my eye. Like, what's that in the back? I go, oh, it's my semi. And so then I kind of like, well, hey, how'd you get that? You know, what you do? Kind of led me, you know, like, oh, here and that, you know, just basic information though, nothing deep, but that's all I needed, man.
Yeah.
I said, this is it. I got to grab this right now. So bam, I go to this little place, start asking about how to start the trucking company. They're like, oh, we're going to help you, $700, this, $800, that. And I start giving them money, man. Like, hey, like, okay, bam, like, here, okay, you got your CA. I go, okay, what's
So you got all those before you even got the truck?
before I even started getting a truck, you can apply for everything, and they'll give them to you,
Yeah.
but they won't insure anything until you have a truck.
The truck, okay.
So I was like, all right, so I got DOT, I got a CA, I got this. I was like, okay, what's next? You know, like,
I'm sorry, but what I heard is that once it's like getting a driver license record too, right? You could get them before that, and then it'll build your record, like a history record.
Yep.
Even though you don't have a truck yet, but it's already.
building, yeah, the DOT, yes. You got to have the insurance, though.
Okay.
So I got it, and right away I started looking for insurance to help me. And my compa let me, you know, hey, call the insurance agent. She hires new DOTs, which is, you know, new numbers. So I called her, and yeah, she was, yeah, what, do you have a truck? And I was like, no, I don't even have money for a truck yet, you know? So I went, and I was like, man, how much is it, you know, oh, they're like, you know, like 10,000 or no, was it 7,000 or $8,000 down for the truck, for my old truck, old International, beat up, you know, a lot of miles, but I didn't know any of it. I just wanted the truck.
Jump, yeah.
And I was like, Old International, I go, they're good trucks, International. I remember I told the guy, he was like, yeah, they're good trucks. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went home and I was like, man, we had a little bit of money saved up and had a credit card. And I said, with these two, bam, I'm gonna put them together and I'll buy this. You know, didn't understand that the interest rate on my credit card was gonna be through the roof. But I said, but I wanna do this. I did it. Man, we got the truck, we had the insurance. My compa got me in with a guy, you know, to kind of start. Yeah, well, he was working kind of to get going, so I got going. We start the process, bam, bam. I learned as I went. Nobody told me, hey, you need an IFTA. Hey, this is, you know, you need this. You need, like, everybody, for whatever reason, in the trucking industry, makes it look like it's a secret. Like,
Yeah, like they don't want to.
oh, you know, I can't tell you where my work is at, or I can't tell you this. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with that? Like,
I'm
what?
just asking.
Like, it's not gonna do anything to you for you to let me know the game, you know? You know, so people wanted to keep it a secret, like not tell, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna figure this out. You know, I have to.
And that's the best way, because I notice whenever you get into something, you get nervous, te empieza a temblar la mendiga rodilla, las patas. You know,
yeah.
But once you start doing it, like, everything starts lining up, dude. One thing by another leads you to this. Okay, now this is how you do it. El problema es aventarse.
That's
because,
it.
like, if you just stop thinking about it, like this and that, if you don't put your foot in, it's never gonna happen. You know?
Never.
And then once you get going, that's the only way it's gonna happen.
It's over, man. This is the way I've always looked at life in general. When I was in the streets and gangs, when I was living on the streets and parks, I was fearless. I said, you know, I knew that I had you know, we lived in thugs and gangsters, so I said, I gotta be big and bad, you know, like, so that's the way I took life on, right? So I said, I need to apply that same mentality to my business. So when I looked at it and I was like, what is it that I can lose? What can I lose? So I remember I used to ask like truckers and people like that had their own business, even like store owners, like, hey, what happens if it all fails? He was, well, I go bankrupt. And I go, what's bankrupt? You know, like, oh, when, you know, they take all your money and they take your assets and they see how much you have and this and that. I was like, so it's property. They don't hurt my kids. They don't hurt my wife. Like, oh, no. It's just your property. And I was like, okay, what else happens? They're like, oh, well, you know, your credit score goes bad. I go, credit score? I was like, so my numbers on a piece of paper that the government has goes bad. And you take something I don't have anyway. I don't have money. What are you going to take? You know, like, I'm like, what? I was like, that's it?
That's it?
So you're not going to beat me up. I'm not going to go to jail. Like, he goes, well, no, it's, you know, all that really can happen is bankruptcy and, like, you know, bad credit and start all over. And I was like, what? I was like, that's it. They're like, that's it. Nothing more. You know, as long as you don't commit no crimes, you ain't going to go to jail, you know? What? And I'm like, no, there has to be more. No. So that's when I started this trucking world. So I started getting into the trucking, man, and I'm like, I remember I finally got a driver. I got a little bit of a job. So I'm working at my job, running my one truck.
Okay, so you still have your job.
Yeah, I never left my job.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I never left my job.
And you had your truck, and you already got a trucker in there.
So I'm working in my job, and then from my job, I used to do side jobs. And all I told myself is, I can go hungry,
Yeah,
but as long as my kids and my wife don't go hungry,
we're good.
everything's good, man. I said, I went to bed more than once hungry. I said, it's okay. Tomorrow we're gonna wake up,
All right.
and we'll be all right. You know, like we did.
Yeah.
Pound some water to get the stomach to calm down a little bit. You know, but like, we're gonna be all right. So I had my job, little side hustles, and the truck's moving. I remember I got down to the point where I had like I literally had enough to pay the rent, the driver, I think insurance, and the payment for the truck, but I had no more money for fuel. I had $0, and my first check that I was gonna get from the job was like a month out.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah.
With trucking, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, what? Like literally, like sitting here with you right now, like boom, zero on the account. I gave the driver his check, paid the truck, said, pay the insurance. I got nothing left, zero, like $0. So I'm sitting there like, oh my God, how is the truck gonna move? You know, I'm like, the driver comes back, says, Joe, you're a good guy, man. You're a good dude. He goes, keep the check. I looked at him, I was like, why?
What do you mean?
Yeah, why? He goes, I feel like you need it. Keep it.
You didn't tell him.
I didn't tell him nothing. No, I didn't say nothing. He just told me to keep the check. I looked at him like, I almost wanted to cry, dude. I was like, for real?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was like, you know, whatever the check for 2 weeks. I mean, man, like 15, 2,000, I don't know I can't remember the number, but it was going to be enough to make it, hopefully, to the day of payday. So I was like, man. I said, dude, I didn't want to take it. You know, I've never been that guy, you know what I mean? But I was like, man, but at that moment, I felt my neck was like, I cried it, and I was like, good looking out, bro. I promise you I'll pay you out there. He's like, you're good, man, you're good. Bam, put it back into fuel. We're rocking and rolling again. Truck's moving. I got my first check. It was like 10 grand.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
That was the first
check ever that trucking made was like 10 grand.
When it had made. Okay.
I was like, for like 2 weeks worth of work, you know what I mean? Like $10,000. It was just getting going. In my head, I was like, I can breathe, you know? Like there's a little bit of breathing room here. But I looked at the check and I knew one thing. I was like, there's more to come. This is the beginning, yeah.
The best feeling, yeah.
I was like, hell yes. I told my wife, like, it's on. Bam. I'm working my job, doing my side hustles, truck moving. Things are moving. Now money's kind of flowing in, right? My side hustles are doing good. My job's paying me good. The truck's making its own money to survive. Okay?
It's paying its own.
Paying its own. The driver, everybody's getting paid now. The team moving along. I start to see a little bit of green in my bank account. I said, nah, grab it, next truck. I'll put it right away. Fearless. I said, let's go, vámonos. Put another driver in there. Okay, bam, it starts to move, you know what I mean? Here we go. The green starts to grow. I said, bam, another truck. Bam, boom, another truck. Boom. The money starts to kind of flow in, but I tell myself this.
And all this, how many trucks you had when you left your job?
When I left my job, we had 5 trucks.
You already had 5 trucks before you even left your job?
Before I left my job.
No way.
Yeah, I had to keep my job. I always wanted to make sure that I can pay my family, my kids, my wife, the bills, you know what I mean? The rest of it, I said, I'll put it right back in. Every penny I got went right back in. I watched one of my close homies. He had his own trucking company. Hopefully he never sees this, but I remember, I know he's gonna know. I remember one day he showed up and he had a fat chain. He goes, look at what I bought my wife. I looked at it, I was like, how much was that? He's like, 20,000. And all I thought in my head is like, man, you could have bought another truck. You could have paid one of the trucks off. Like, you could have done so much more than a gold chain. But I didn't tell him this. No disrespect.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens to us. It didn't happen to you. It happened to me. Things that I'm like,
what did I do?
Why did I do it? Like, I could have invested this money somewhere. Once again, sometimes you don't have that. You don't think like that.
Yeah.
Y ya después la empieza a cagar and you're like,
Oh my God.
I've done this. Or I'm gonna start again and then start from zero again, and I'm gonna do that.
Do that,
Now
yeah.
this is the plan, Yeah.
Yeah, so the money started to flow in, and I'm buying trucks. Man, we're going. Again, we're doing good. In the midst, before I left my job, there was a moment where, and I want to say this, all of it, man. Thank to God, man. All glory to God, dude. He's been a big part in what we've done, huge part. I came to a point though that it got real tight. Trucking got real tough, and I was like, man, again, we hit another wall. And again, I'm fearless. I'm gonna say we gotta figure this out. But I remember I laid on the edge of my bed, broke, in the midst of all of it, and I was like, man, I stretched myself too far. I didn't understand business. I didn't understand. I remember I heard this one day, but this was later on. I heard growing pains. When you grow, it hurts because you invest. So your piggy bank gets a little small, so you got to re-up. You know what I mean? But, I every time I boom, boom, and I overextended myself.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, no money again. I'm like, damn. And I said, just like this. When I tell you it went just like this, I literally mean it. I'm laying on the edge of my bed. I stand up and I'm like, man, I feel like, damn, what did I do, I said, God, help me, man. Bing. My phone thing's a little ding. I reached down, looked at it, and it's an email from another customer that we had done a little bit of work with in the previous past. He tells me, hey, Joe, you still got your trucks and you're running? In the email, right? And I'm like, yeah, what's up, He goes, hey, I don't know why you came to my mind, but I wanted to send this towards you, see if you can help me out. And I was like, this guy works in LA. He doesn't work in the town. He doesn't work here. Doesn't really know me. I'm like, I came to your mind. Like,
you don't really have to work at that time.
Yeah, no.
The trucks están parqueados.
Yeah, we're stopped, and I'm like, man. He's like, you came to my mind, and I want to send this your way, and tell me what you think. And they were paying us to do. It was in the midst of COVID, and they told me just like, have you ever been to do containers? I said, containers? Never. Yeah, what's that? No, I've never done containers, but I'll do it. I'll do it. I didn't even know how much they were gonna pay yet or nothing. But we're talking through the email. He goes, hey, they send me that, and I send him like license and blah blah blah, whatever, insurance, whatever he asked for. I send it. He goes, we're gonna have a meeting this date here, and it was like a day or two out, And he goes, if you want to show up, we'll show up with the truck, and we're gonna explain more of what we're gonna do. And I showed up, and this customer was gonna do. They were gonna move Walmart containers out, and they had a day rate of $5,000 per truck for the day at the job. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes like, well, yeah, we're going to pay you a day rate of like, I can't remember the exact thing. It was $5,000. He goes, and all you're going to do is take the containers out of there and bring them here and offload them. I was like, what? That's it? I was like, all right, cool. He goes, hey, yeah. He goes, you got an RFID, right? You got this. And he starts telling me things that you need in the port. I just say yes.
Yes. Oh, you didn't have them.
I didn't have anything. I didn't know what that was. But man, fearless, man. We just got to roll.
What is gonna happen?
I remember this. Beto. Beto was with me now at that time. My brother, myself. Beto goes into the port. He goes, yeah, I'm here to pick up a container. Yeah. Brand new.
That's all I need.
That's all we knew. We're here to pick up a container. The guy comes on the pedestal and says, where's your RFID tag? Do you guys got permission to come in? Do you guys pay this, your day rate? Do you guys pay that? And I'm like, he comes back out, he goes, you need your RFID tag. Beto tells me. And I'm like looking at him like, I need my what?
What is that?
So I Google RFID. What is this, And on Google it says, to call this number to get an RFID tag. You can, yeah, I need an RFID tag. Sir, did you register to the ports? I go, register? He goes, do you have a contract with the ports? And I go, contract? I was like, no. The lady goes, okay, I'm going to show you how to get a day pass. I said, I don't care. Show me that so I can get in.
Yeah.
So she goes, yeah, this is what you pay this, pay that, put your VIN number here, enter. You know, she's on the phone and I'm like this.
So as you're at the port,
We're trying to get in. Yeah.
Okay.
And then she goes, okay, it's $100, you know, for the RFID tag, whatever. And I'm like, you know, like, okay, and where do I pay? She goes, you need to come down to the office. And the office is down the street by the ports. So I fly over there, bought the RFID tag, get back over there. You know, I look at it like, I'm looking at the other trucks. I'm like, where did this go, you know?
Yeah.
And the lady's like, put it here and whatever. So we put it where she asked and they tested like, okay, you should be good like in 30 minutes. I was like, oh my God, you know, like I've had doing this and that and that.
Get it out, yeah.
Boom. First day we get into the port. Now we're in the port, you know, like after getting chewed out, but I minimized the process. Beto had gone in there like 2 or 3 times, got chewed out. They told him, we're going to ban you. We didn't even know what that meant.
How you doing here?
Yeah. They're like, I don't even, what do you mean you're going to ban me? You can't ban me.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we can ban you. You know what I mean? We will. And I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
She goes, get out, you know, like, get out. And I was like, she goes, then you need to get approved by a steamship line. I was like, a steamship line? What's that? You know, what's
that?
Google steamship line, you know, like, what is that? I'm like, man, it was hell, but we got in. By the end of the day, after the whole process, we got in.
You got it, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. We got a day pass. The next day, we had to go. They had already showed us, go on the website, and you could buy another day pass. And I think there was a limit of like.
So you had to buy the $500 pass every day?
No. After registering one time, you buy a day pass. The day pass was like $30 after that.
Okay.
So then you pay, you buy the day pass. But I knew that would come to an end. They told us, hey, you guys need to make contracts with the port.
Make it happen like
Yeah, you need to figure it out how to get contracts with the ports, this and that. I was like, what's that, you know? Again, I'm picking guys' brains, asking this guy, asking that, and then nobody wants to tell me.
And the guy's already in there.
They're like, oh,
you don't have that?
you need an eMoto account. And I was like, I knew that he was just being like, you know, an asshole. But I wrote down eMoto. I said, this has something to do with me. I know that. So I put it in my phone. I said, I got to figure this out too. You know, but right now I said, I need to register. I don't know what the hell. So I called the lady back that had originally helped us. And she was like, sir, I'm going to give you a contract. You need to fill it out. And you need to send money order or a check to this account with this information. I'm like, what? So I looked at it, bam, like $2,500. You know, and it was going to take like 2-3 weeks and this and that. I was like, all right, cool. So I start filling out the application. We're in the port. Now we're making money.
Now
it's on.
Yeah, okay.
I start buying another truck, and I buy another truck, but this time I knew, hey,
this is what I need.
Yeah, this is the break.
This is what we have.
God gave me a break, and I need to take advantage of it. The big check started to roll in.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
whoa! I'm like looking at these checks, like, oh my God, huge. I'm like, okay. This is more money than I've ever done in my whole life. I know this. I'm not financially smart. What do? You know, I don't know what a CPA is. I don't know what taxes are on this. I don't know any of that. So I said, oh my God, what do? I keep seeing like on Instagram reels and people talking real estate. The interest rates are low. I don't know never owned a house.
During COVID time, right?
During COVID, yeah. During COVID, people are buying a lot stuff from China, so the containers are coming in, and they need to move. Walmart needed help. Home Depot needed help. Lowe's needed help. Okay? So that's why they were paying the big bucks to get those contracts with those trucks there and keep them moving. So the top, man, we're making a ton of money. We're making a ton of money, but I knew that I wasn't very smart with my money. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start buying properties. Bam. So I started getting into the homes, buying properties, and I started fixing them and flipping them and blah, you know.
But now you have investments in different ways. Now it's the second one.
Yeah.
Over here.
So then we start, then, you know, I learned from all my bosses this, never put your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. So I knew don't just stick to trucking. Because trucking has its highs and its lows.
Really low.
And really low.
They go low. They go really low.
So, in the midst of all that, I knew that eventually I know like everything, it comes to an end. And during the midst of it, I used to hear the other troqueros, hey, it's never going to end, Joe. It's never going to end. I said, no, brother. Everything comes to an end. I go, what goes up
gonna go down.
Must come down. It's not gonna stay. So I knew that. So in the midst of all of it, I started to look for customers outside now.
Okay.
I said, I need to figure out how to get customers outside of this. So I'll be driving, I'll be watching.
But still in the containers.
Still doing my container work, still making money, but I knew already in my head that I had to look outside.
Okay.
So then I started to look and, I didn't know how to reach out to people. Finally got my first big contract, my nice little contract. And from that, I picked up, in the midst of it, I called this customer, and they were moving clothes to Nevada, ropa, just a bunch of clothes. And they needed help. Nobody was willing to help them because they didn't have that many containers. So I told them, I'll help you. I said, even if I sacrificed a little bit, took maybe 1 or 2 trucks out and send them their way, I knew that was going to benefit me in the long run. Because when it slows down, I thought in my head,
You already have something to back you up.
yeah. Sure enough, the day comes, shoom, crashes, right? Everybody's panicked. Oh my, they're laying go, hey, we're done with you, we're done with you, we're done with you, we're done with you. They holy smack, but ya tenía yo mi little contracts on the side. So thank God we kept it
I
moving.
think that's around probably the time when the Panama Canal closed down.
Yeah,
Because I remember all the containers
Yep.
started going bad and
Bad
all the
quick,
time,
yep.
backing up everything.
yeah. So we got our little contracts. We start working, with the outside customers. But through that process, I remember I started to understand more business. I started to teach myself. I never really. I seen one of your the other guys that you talked. The guy I think maybe before me. I forgot what was his name.
I asked my boy from Tintin.
Yeah. He said something. I was watching it, and then he goes, I didn't have nobody to to guide me. So it was all self-taught. Okay, let me try this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me try that. That didn't work. Let me try. Okay, this kind of worked. Let me try this again. Maybe I can, y así me la llevé, just like that, figuring it out and going through the process. And then I started to deal with brokers and like different people and understanding the trucking business. Okay. Really, okay, where do you get your fuel from? Where do you get your oil changes? I grew in a good rate. Thank God, God gave me the opportunity, and we made it as big as we could, as quickly as we could, and we grew. And now I'm picking up bigger contracts. Now I had another guy, and I had another guy. But now I started looking for cheaper diesel and oils and products. So start to understand trucking business, man. And my plan in the near future. Is I want to give this away. Okay. The knowledge of trucking. Because trucking, there's a lot of money in trucking. People say, oh, trucking's bad, trucking's this. I go, no, it's because you don't know what you're... Yeah, you don't understand it. Yeah. Everything that's happening behind it. And how do you build, how do you get more work? And I tell everybody, I know so many guys that always, I want to get into trucking. And I said, hey, there's a sacrifice, though. It comes at a price. You can't have it all. You own 2, 3 trucks. I was my own mechanic. I was my own service guy. I was my own dispatcher. I'm my own HR. Thank God now, we grew to a level where I can have a mechanic and I can have somebody outside help us. My wife does more of the payroll. I got more help. So not everything's just on my plate. You know what I mean? But during the process, it's you learn a lot. But trucking there's a gold mine. It's huge.
You have to understand it.
You just have to understand it. You have to learn how to build your clientele. You have to get into one thing, understand it, break it down, know your costs, know what you're gonna do, know how you're gonna do it, and then don't let it move you. Like people, I hear all the time, oh no, there's more money over here. Oh no, there's more money over there. Oh, I'm like,
you can't be jumping around.
No,
the same business. You can't.
No, you got stick with your customers. Fix your problems that's happening. Stick with your customers. Help. Do. This is one of the things. A lot of people get stuck. They get stubborn. Oh no, this is what it needs to be. Like, no, hey man, learn how to adjust. Yeah. The market change with this. Hey, the market's up. It's during peak season, brother. I'm gonna have to charge you this. Okay, the market's down. It's not peak season. We're slower. I got to bring my costs down a little bit. I can't charge you. If we're booming, there's a price. If it's a little bit slower, It's a different price. You know what I mean? I can't charge you the same price here that I was charging you here, you know, because I understand their market comes down too. So I got to make sure to understand that, hey, you know, we know during the peak season, we're selling, we're moving a lot. We can pay a little bit more. But when it's slow for us, man, we can't pay that same price.
Much,
yeah, so you always got to learn how to adjust too. A lot of guys like to get stuck on that price.
Yeah. And, you know, back when you started, like you said, you were working for somebody to keep going with your family and then to keep the truck. Now, though, the weight in your shoulders is even bigger because now a lot of families depend from you now. Now it's just not my family, you know. Now you have to think about, like, I have to keep going because his family depends from me.
Yes.
That family depends from me. If I don't keep going, that kid is not going to eat.
Yes.
And now it's just not. Now, I was talking to one of my old bosses, Cuco, from 3G Farms. Así también sometimes he'll be like moving, like I said, we had up and downs. Y también he's like, bro, like, no puedo estar a gusto ya, just relax because now a lot of families depend from my business and from what I had got going on, you know. So it's a big weight in your shoulders.
Huge responsibility. Huge responsibility, man. You know, I love it. I love it because to me, a lot of people counted me out. A lot of people told me I was never going to amount. I heard it my whole life. I heard it like, oh, this guy's going to be in prison his whole life. This guy's going to be, you know, this guy's going to die. Yeah, it's another number. Yeah, so I said, you know what? When the opportunity showed itself and I made the most of it, and you know, again, I thank my wife. I thank God, you know, thank God overall, my wife. But we made the most of it. And now I talk to people sometimes, you know, I hear them talk and I hear them like, oh, you know, it's hard because of this or it's hard. And like, yeah, it's hard, but it's hard being broke and not having anything. And it's hard having money and continuing to make money. It's hard.
Pick which one do you want?
Pick which heart you want.
Yeah.
But I starved, you know, I went hungry, you know, there was nights where I wouldn't drink water just to make sure everybody else fed, you know, everybody else was fed. I did that, you know what I mean? And I didn't die, nothing happened, bro. We're going to get through it, you know what I mean? And
yeah, that's how business is, man. Like I said, I don't have big business like that yet, but my mind is there too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I already planned to see.
Hell
like
yeah.
This conversations are not just them bande, you know, like I want
Oh,
to
yeah.
learn from you guys.
Yeah.
You know? I want to learn. That's my main focus, you know, and yeah, that happens. Like I've been in those shoes many times, you know, where like, como dices, like you stretch it too much, you spend much money in this, and then you're like, God damn, what did I do?
What did I do?
Like,
Yeah.
I need to know work, bro. It's been times where I like, hey, do you have money in your account? Can you sell me $20 to?
Yeah.
And I'm like I'm the one making the money, making all the payments, and then she doesn't work, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me check. Yeah, I have $30. You know?
Yeah.
So like sometimes people don't know the struggle of try to make something happen, you know. But that's the good feeling of it, you know, because you enjoy it as it goes, and like you said, now you look back when you started, you know, like doesn't that make you so proud? There's like,
oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, like I'm getting somewhere
now,
that's pushing this, you know.
Now I've always had a big drive. I have a big drive, man. Like, you know, I just never knew how to use it. I used it for bad things.
For the battle.
Now we use it for the good things. And you know, you sit there and you look at, you know, my house. Like for me, you know, my house is not the biggest house, but it's a decent house. You know, my cars ain't the newest cars or whatever. But to me, what I work for
me, where I come from, it's everything. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I have an older pickup. My pickup's 2015 Chevy. But to me,
that's my truck.
It's huge.
Like, who would have thought I was getting that truck?
Never. I thought in my head I was gonna see those trucks through catalogs and TVs, you know. And I own a diesel pickup, you know. Yeah, to guys it's like, oh, it's just a truck. To me, it meant a lot.
Yeah.
Because I know the work that I put in, the
sacrifice.
My house, the house we live in, you know, I walk in, and, you know, it's not a huge, again, it's like 2,500 square feet, but, you know, we walk in, high roof, I'm like,
man, I was at a park one time.
Yeah, huge. You know, huge difference in watching my kids, you know, smile and laugh and eat, and it means the world to me now. You know what I mean? It means everything. And like you said, you know, knowing that my guys can go on vacations with their kids and experience those kind of things is awesome. You know,
amazing,
it's from where we started to where we at and to where we're going. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge, man. It's a tremendous difference. And I always used to think this, why me? Why did I choose? Because these were decisions I made, bad decisions, but decisions that I choose to make. And I always ask myself, like, why did I go through this? Why did I have to go through juvenile hall? Why did I have to go to prison? Why did I do this to myself? Why? And when you sit here and look at the bigger picture, there was a reason.
Yeah, this is something you had to go through to get you where you're at now.
This generation's soft.
Yeah, super soft, man.
Man, dude, you watch some of these guys, man, and you know, and I'm like, oh my God.
What's going on here?
Yeah, like what's...
Like, you guys don't know what life was.
Yeah,
you know?
dude, like, and I hear them complain like, oh, this is hard or that's hard. And I'm like, dude, that's not hard, dude.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know what hard is, my guy. But, you know, you hear them out, you know, you just, but in my head sometimes I think like, man, there's so much in you. There's so much in all of us.
There's so much potential that you haven't discovered yet. But once you discover it's
over.
endless, man. You just have to have the faith in yourself, you know, the motivation and the belief in you that, you know, like, you can't look back, you know. No. You have to keep going, and todo se empieza a alinear, bro. Like, once you keep going, todo se empieza a alinear, you know. And you said, like, you have the drive, but in the negative way. Now that you're using it for the positive, it's a different world now.
Endless.
Now you have, you know.
Now I'm, you know, I start a company, try to start a company once a week sometimes now, you know, like... I try to start a company once a week now. I try to invest in different things. I try to see what's out there, and you know, I got other things in the works now. Thank God, you know. And again, I don't have millions of dollars or anything like that, but I know we're pushing in the right direction. I know we're doing good. We're way better than we were. I invest. I buy trucks. I try to buy trucks, fix them, sell them. You know, now I also do smogs. You know, for diesels. Okay. I got my certificates. I bought the machine. I do smogs for diesels too. You know, I try to help the people, and like I said, one of the ultimate goals that I have for myself is one day I want to have like a trucking school. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, but it's not going to teach you how to drive. It's going to teach you how to run. And this is what I tell the guys: you're a driver or you're a business owner. But you can't be both. You can't be both, yeah. You got to learn the difference. I understand at the beginning you might drive for yourself to get to that next level, but you always got to tell yourself, man, you can't. Yeah, this is what you want. Yeah, you know, you can't be stuck in the seat. You know what I mean? You got to understand there's more. So I want to be able to open the gates for the people to understand trucking in a different view. You know what I mean? To see it through a different pair of eyes and understand, you know, there's more. There's more than just driving, you know, 20 hours a day for the rest of your life. Yeah. And saying like, oh, you know, I make good money, I'm just going to stay here. Like, no.
No, you have to think about
bigger. Ahead, yeah. Always think bigger and be fearless, man. Don't be scared of what's next, because what do you risk?
Yeah, like what is it? Why are you so much afraid of?
Yeah, like what are you, you know, people fight every day to come over from different countries here. And some of these guys make it here and get big. They blow all their business because they're fearless, dude.
And there's a lot of people here that they don't know that, you know. They don't take advantage of this country, you know. Like, we're in a country where you could become whatever you want, man. And it's not easy, but if it's on you, you could make it happen. You know, because a lot of people struggle in other countries and they make it happen. Like, you're in America, you're in the United States. Like, if you're not making it happen, it's okay to you know, to have that and not make it happen, but know what you're going to do. And guide yourself to be better, you know, because there's ways here to do it, you know. Always.
There's an opportunity. United States of America, man, gives us, oh my God, just endless amount, you know, from information on your phone to credit cards and loans. And I mean, you know, I see guys, you know, all the time go get these, you know, 2025 Chevrolet Silverados, $100,000. And this is what I ask them. Oh, no, but I can't do this and I can't do that. I go, you were able to figure out a way to get into that monster of a truck, $100,000 pickup. You can't figure out how to start your own business? Yeah. Come on, my guy. Yeah. Like, you know, you got to wake up. You know, hey, it's possible.
You need to pick your bottle. Pickup because, you know, like, there's a way to do it. Yeah.
So that's you know, that's something that eventually I want to be able to do for the people, is just kind of make trucking and open it up. You know what I mean? I always feel like there's some knowledge on the phone, you know, there's videos and YouTubes and Google and all this stuff, but, you know, we want to get down to the nitty gritty, you know what I mean? To the ugly, the nice, the in between, you know, how to, you know, I've been at the lowest and I've been at the highest, man. You know, I made a ton of money and then I've had no money, you know what I mean? And I want to be able to expose and open that one day and show the people like, hey, man.
Like it's possible. This is how it is. Invest your money, and you know, because I had friends, you know, like I haven't jumped in the truck yet to own my own one, but you know, this conversation is like, dude, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And but yeah, I had friends where they get their first truck and they start spending all that money till the training goes bad and se acabó el negocio, you know. Yeah. So that's something good to learn from you, you know, like invest that money. Whatever you're making, save it and invest it, you know.
I hear that a lot. You said it perfectly. You said something I completely skipped over, but when I started trucking with my first truck, the engine blew up 3 times.
First truck.
My first truck, no money, and my engine blew up.
International.
In my International. I still have that bad boy.
Okay.
They crashed it, I fixed it, they blew it up, I fixed it again. That truck's not going nowhere, and I planned that to one day to be my, you know, when the story happens, del Big Joe,
yeah,
you know, like, how did he start? You're gonna look at the truck. That's how he started. That one right there started it all. Yeah. Yeah. I had so many guys pull up to the yard and be like, hey, I'll buy you that ugly truck over there. I was like, I'm talking about my truck. Like, come on, man. I don't go to your house. You leave my truck alone, man. That's my bad. That's my baby right there. But I during the process, we had the engine blow up.
Okay.
We had it blow up, and I've heard that story where like, you know, transmission goes out, the engine goes out, and that's it. They fold it.
Okay.
I didn't have no money. The engine blew up. I walked in there and I told the mechanic, hey, man. And I went to different mechanics, but I went and I said, hey, man, look, I know you don't know me, bro. This is me, blah, blah, this is where I work at, you know, but hey, look, help me fix this engine, and I'll give you a little bit more money, but I'll pay you in payments.
Yeah.
I don't have it all. I have a little bit. I can buy me this or that, the head, maybe a turbo, you know, something small, but you have to help me with the majority, but I'll pay you. And one said no, another one said no, and then one's like, all right, I'll help you, man. You seem like a good guy. Come on, bring it. Yeah. Boom, vámonos, dije, fix it, and as soon as it comes out, back to work, and I go back to the mechanic, here, man, here's the money I owe you, you know what I mean? Yeah. Bam, and then boom, it blows up again. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, what am I gonna do? But that happens, and it does happen, but you don't give up on a small bump on the road, man. You can't.
Yeah, you have to figure out and then how to make it happen again and go back again and
do it.
You know, once you back up with that, bro, like that's it. Like that's it. You can't come out of those holes sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's the way that's the way I look at life in general. That's the way I look at trucking. That's the way I look at business, man. You got to be fearless. You can't let these little things stop you, get to you. You know, you can't let them affect you. You got to push through them because, you know, what was the saying? How did it go? It was you know, we do this hoping. The difference is a lot of people say, oh, I want this. I want to make money. Like, this is what I want to do. You got to figure out money can't be your motive. Yeah. It can't be the motive because you'll die chasing dollars.
Yeah, what's behind it?
You got to tell yourself, how do I provide a solution for you? Mm-hmm. Okay, what's the problem? Let me provide a solution. The money will come.
Yeah.
The money will come from, trust me. It's like breathing. You know, it's going to come. Once you figure out somebody's problem, you have a problem. I can fix this problem. Well, how much? Boom, the money showed up. There it is. You know, that's the money part. You know what I'm saying? But that's what you got to understand. You know, so many people, I want to become a millionaire. Like that, you will never become one.
You never become a millionaire.
Yeah, you're not gonna become. You gotta figure out what's your niche.
What's your purpose?
Yeah, what's the purpose, and then figure out the solution to the people's problem. You know, and the rest will come.
That's how to get on the way of making it happen without even thinking about the money. You know, because it's gonna come eventually.
It will. Right? That's guaranteed, man. So, that's kind of where we've been at. That's what we've done.
Yeah, that was good conversation. I couldn't wait for this. You know, I see you probably like 2-3 times, but you know, since the first time we talked outside of Vecino's house, we had that connection. You know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say this in front of the cameras, but I want to bring it up. You know, one time, the first time I met you after that, like a week after, my brother passed, and you showed me some big money, bro. And then we didn't even know each other. You know.
Yeah.
From that day, I was like, God damn, you know, Like you're different to me. You, not just because of that, you know. But I had to mention we had a little conversation, and that's why I noticed like this guy can talk. Like ahorita the camera switched to me like 2 times, bro. We could be talking for hours. You know?
Yeah.
But you know, like I want to say thank you, bro. Thank you, I appreciate it. You know, like
Yes, sir.
some things that I'll never forget. You know, and glad we had this conversation. Like
Yeah.
you could go on for days. Bro.
I can,
We
man.
could
There's
do this
stories,
every day,
man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know? And there's a lot to learn from you. You know.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the main reasons I want to bring you in because I want to learn from you and want to see how you handle things. You know.
Yeah.
And thank you, appreciate just how you say you're with your bosses. Like how do you do this? How do you do that? That's my main goal too, dude.
Yeah,
That's my
learn,
main goal. I
grow.
wanna learn from you guys. Learn from people that I look up to. You know.
Yeah.
And glad to have you. Glad to see you doing well. Glad to see your kids are doing well.
Yes, sir.
I know you. A while back, you said you're gonna diet and losing weight. You look way skinnier now.
Yeah.
You look in better shape, you know.
Try.
And you have to do that for your kids, you know.
Yeah, you
and
do.
That's your main motivation. And you know, like that was más grande so before.
Yeah.
And now you look better shape, you know. Now you can go around with your kids and play with them.
Play football,
And,
yeah.
and at the end of the day, you're doing this for your kids, you know.
Yes, sir.
I see you spending more time with them, with a little boy, with your family, bro, and that's a blessing, you know.
It is.
And like God knows why it does what it does. It is like you're out there for fucking months at a time, and now you're enjoying your family, bro. So
Every day.
So glad that's going on with your life, you know, and
Yes,
thank
sir.
God it's happening for you, you know. And I appreciate this conversation, bro.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Yeah, and now that we have the cameras rolling, bro, anything you wanna say to your kids in the future? If they
Oh,
see this
man. I
10
love
years
them.
from now,
Hopefully I did okay. You know, I was nervous, man. You know, this is awesome, man. I love this. This is cool, man. I got invited to do a couple of them, but I always been like, I don't know.
like, I don't
Yeah, I was like, nah, I don't know. But when you did it, I was like, I'll go to his. You know, like.
But you see how it started floating?
Yeah.
Like I was more nervous than you were when we started,
Yeah.
you know? And then right now it just flowing. Like I would just listen
Yeah.
to you the whole time, you know. And I love the conversation. You know?
Yeah.
This is the main reason why I'm doing it, bro. Because I'm enjoying it. I love the conversations. And you know, we have a one-on-one conversation. There's the
That's
best way
awesome.
to learn from somebody, you know.
Absolutely, man.
Ándale, pues, yo, pues con eso nos pedimos, carnal.
Ya está.
Y ahí estamos para la otra. This is gonna be the first one, but we're gonna keep it happening.
Hell yeah.
Again, you know?
Hopefully the people like it.